Welcome to Barrio Voices, where we highlight the voices of our barrios, familias, and communities. This is Velas, and I hope you're having a good one. Sit back and enjoy la plática. Órale. Now, welcome back to Barrio Voices. I hope that you're having a wonderful day. Now, today's guest speaker is Lucia. She's a well-known artist, muralist, educator from the Mission District out here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Now, if y'all don't know what the Mission District is all about, you all definitely didn't tune into the last episode with Mission Native. She goes in depth también with what it means to be from the Mission. Now, today, though, we're going to be talking about like the more artistic side, right? What is those murals right there in the Balmy Alley and the other alleys that we have right there, right? What all those murals symbolize, how does art really go to allow us to persevere within our barrios as we battle things like gentrification and other things that are imposed within our own communities, you know what I mean? And so make sure that y'all support her with what she's doing. She's got an event going on for the whole month of September, so go support her. So please do. Again, she's a great leader, great voice within our own community, and I want to make sure that y'all definitely go out there and support her as well, right? And for more information, make sure that y'all follow her at Cialu Art, which is CIALU Art. So y'all make sure to show some love, give her a follow. And DJ Velas, pues hit the rola, Órale.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I know we all got a lot going on, but like it means a lot to have somebody like you in the community, like looking to do this kind of work and support artists like that. So thank you. And I was born and raised in the Mission. Both my parents have been in the Mission like since the 70s, my mom doing like political activism work, my dad doing artwork. And it just has always like meant a lot to me to be involved as much as possible in the community and kind of like be educated about what's happening in politics and also just be immersed in the art world. So growing up at a young age, I was like doing art and learning about different things that were happening in the world and kind of slowly got into art, but also became a teacher and an activist. I did my first mural in 2012 that was my own and in Balmy Alley, and it's called Mission Makeover Mural, focusing on gentrification. And I do murals. I also do paintings, mostly that focus on like very political and social themes, kind of focusing on concerns that I have that are with different oppressions going on in the world. I also do like a lot of screen printing and drawing, and now I'm working on a comic book. And I was getting my master's in art therapy too, and I'm kind of like trying to merge the worlds of activism, teaching, art making, and therapy all into one at some point, but we'll see what happens with that.
That's cool. And you mentioned growing up, you've been working on some art and instead just learning about politics, that was going on within the world. How was it growing up? How was it? I mean, to me, it's impressive that at a young age, you already had that kind of mindset, So, tell us a little bit about that real quick.
I mean, I think I was hella lucky, like to have parents that were very well educated. My mother worked at like an anarchist bookstore when I was a kid. Like she worked at China Books over here on 24th Street. That was there for hella long. And my dad, he was working like with Mission Grafica and Mission Cultural Center. And so I think I was just blessed to be immersed in that world, at a very young age, but also like grew up in the hood. So I had also that mentality too, you know what I mean? Like I had kind of a mix of understanding, you know what I mean? Like, so growing up in the Mission, I mean, how it goes, like it was crazy. Like it was crazy out here, just, not just because of what was going on with like, gang shit and just like the police and, seeing your friends pass away, seeing your friends move, seeing your friends get hooked on drugs, like seeing seeing girls get like dogged out, seeing just like crazy stuff, but also just seeing the like vibrancy of the community with being surrounded by like Latino families and artists, and so that mixing with like witnessing gentrification too, like getting all these families getting forced out and all these new white people moving in. And I think it really influenced me a lot, like just my community influenced me to speak out against. I mean, I think that was like one of the main things that I've been trying to connect so much in my artwork, is how gentrification is the same as like other oppressions in other parts of the world. Like I've tried to connect, the Latino struggle with like issues that are going on in Palestine with like the occupation and things like that. So I feel like there's so much connection between just our little community being oppressed versus like a big country being oppressed. This neocolonialism is very real in gentrification. I don't know if that answered your question. I feel like I went off on like a tangent.
That's what normally happens. I feel like, when we're passionate about something, we just, don't want to get, done with that conversation. We want to continue talking about it, So again, I appreciate, your passion for it. And again, the things that you've been doing for, the mission, just, our communities, just in general, has been something that's been remarkable, right? We notice it, from afar, even from those that are living the mission too. I bet they really appreciate everything that you're doing out there, even your family, I bet they appreciate what, they've been doing, ese también. And so just to begin, like, you shared a little bit about, the purpose, your purpose about, behind every a mural that you do, every piece of art that you do. But tell us a little more about the meaning. Like, what does this mean to you, to be able to do that kind of work within your own hometown?
I mean, it means the world to me, because I grew up seeing like murals getting made by my mentors. Juana Alicia, she started out as like a teacher of mine, and then she became my stepmom. Like my dad and her ended up getting married like almost 20 years ago. And I grew up with like looking up to people like Joss Sanses and Daniel Galvez, who are like big time muralists in the Bay. And I saw like how big of a project it would be, and I never thought I would be able to do something like that. But then as I got older, I realized the importance, like these murals are visual documentations of our history, and they're very big, like blatant statements, like speaking out against whatever they're speaking out about. And people come from all over. I mean, like there's like hella tours, like tourist walks all over the mission that are just for the art specifically. I mean, people, and you meet all kinds of people walking through here looking at the art. So it's important that, if we're going to be showing people that aren't from here art in our community, that we show them what's going on in our community. And I think like that's, people need to know, I think that's like a big reason why I chose to put like a lot of different candles, for example, on the Amilcar Perez Lopez mural on 24th and Cap, like the new Alto al Fuego en la Misión, because it's an altar representing Amilcar, but the candles on the altar represent many other Black and brown brothers who've been killed by SFPD. And that's like right, the start of the Latino cultural district. So anybody who's walking down 24th and is going to see that needs to know like, oh, okay, that's really what's going on,
Yeah, and I think it's really deep. Just hearing that right now, it's very hard to just take all that in, because there's a lot of substance that goes within our own communities, a lot of stories that goes within our communities, a lot of cultural significance, you know what I mean? Like, what does it mean to us, and also the realities that, has gone within them as well. And for others that are tuning in, right, that know about the mission or don't know about the mission, what do you want to give them a little more context about, what kind of messages you want to portray within the mural that represent, what the mission is like.
Yeah, I mean the mission is like, I mean it's very similar to like other neighborhoods like, in LA, like Echo Park, or San Diego's like Chicano Park, or, Oakland's Fruitvale even. But what makes our mission, I think, so special is like, San Francisco has one of the best landscapes in the world. Like we live in a bay that's an estuary. So it's like we have hella wildlife and like fresh water and a lot of hills, and the mission in particular is built on like these old creeks, and there's a lot of rich like spiritual energy and history there. I mean, the Ohlone people, who were the natives of this land, like used those creeks, you know what I mean? And a lot of the hills in the city were shell mounds, and the mission in particular is a valley in between hills. So it collects like all this sunlight, which is hella dope, because it's like anywhere, you could go anywhere else in the city and it'll be like 55 degrees, but then you go to the mission, it's like 75, and it's always like that. It's always sunny. And I think that's part of what drives people. I mean, a lot of people talk about how, when you talk about change in the mission and when you talk about gentrification, a lot of people are like, oh, well, it used to be an Irish neighborhood. But it's like, yeah, I mean, it did used to be an Irish neighborhood, but it was a Latino neighborhood for way longer. And the Irish weren't like forced evicted from the neighborhood. So there's a big difference. And so the mission, I think maybe that sunlight, maybe the cultura, I don't know, just made it become like this very rich, vibrant hub of food, of culture, of art, of families. You used to walk down, it was like nothing but mom and pop shops, and so I think that if anybody was coming to the mission and didn't know about it, I would want them to like understand that history, and also understand that the murals are almost sort of like one last thing that we have left of our mission. Like, so many of our friends have left, so many of the businesses have been shut down, but one thing that remains is the history of these murals.
Damn, when you put it like that, makes the mural even more important, It makes it seem very much like it needs to be protected, in other words, right? And so like for your mural, right, the one that you mentioned that speaks about gentrification, that shows a before and after, and I think I know which one you're talking about. Do you want to paint us a little visual, what that is like, what the mural represents? Because I think it will really, give a little more context on the issues of like the mission.
Yeah, the Mission Makeover mural is in Balmy Alley in between 24th and 25th. It's like right smack in the middle of the alley, and it's the biggest mural in the alley. It's like 25 feet long. And it's two doors, it's two garage doors, and then as at the top of it as well, like above the doors. And the two doors kind of represent, like, the left door is the mission I grew up with and the mission I experienced. So there's like, all these old shops like La Victoria Bakery and Carlos Bar and like Discolandia, like things that are kind of like landmarks that aren't there no more. And there's the 48 bus pulling up, which was like always the bus I used to take growing up. And there's these two kids in the front, and they're these two, I kind of like, it's kind of hard to tell whether they're black or brown, but I wanted to make that connection, and the police are arresting them. They're harassing them. And one of them like has like Skittles and falling out of his pocket as like a reference to Trayvon Martin, who was, on his way to get Skittles and an Arizona iced tea when he was gunned down. And then the door on the right is more of like the new remodeled, revised version of the mission. So it has, a cop instead, like sharing a cup of coffee with a white lady who's like, she has like her dogs on a leash, and she has like, you know, these expensive groceries in her hand. She's got a Bluetooth in her ear, and behind them there's like a new family moving into a Victorian house, a new white family. And on the other side, there was like a Latino family moving out. So it's like a new family moving in, an old family moving out, and you know, all these hipsters on the stairs, and you see in the background just coffee shop after coffee shop after coffee shop on 24th Street. And then above is kind of more like less of like a local literal look at oppression and more of like a global look. So you have kind of like these more symbolic elements, like you have these two women that represent la cultura of the mission. Like you have them wearing a Dia de los Muertos face, and kind of like a typical like payasa clown face for Chicano heritage. And they're holding up a fist, like protecting one another from this big money flow that's like coming out of a big tech giant and coming out of the stock exchange and just like pouring into our community in ways that we don't want. And this tech giant, he's like a skeleton because he's just kind of dead on his computer. He's unplugged from reality, but at the same time he's like this cord he's plugged in. And there's these monkeys above that are wearing suits kind of representing politicians that turn their cheek to like what's going on below. And then it kind of turns into this landscape of the Garden of Eden. And you see Adam and Eve being evicted from the Garden of Eden by SWAT police. And there's like a foreclosure sign behind them. And yeah, so it's like, it's very much a literal and symbolic depiction of what gentrification means to me.
Yeah, you really got like what's it called? Photographic memory or something like that, because you paint it out, very
Well, I did paint it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now, I think, yeah, I've seen the mural so many times. I never knew you were the artist that actually created the mural, but it really goes to symbolize. Yeah, and it's nice to meet the artist finally. But yeah, como te digo, yeah, it really means a lot hearing it from your perspective too, because it really goes to validate, or not validate, but prove, my own perspective too when it comes down to explaining the mural as well. And so yeah, it's very much again on detailing the experience of like what's going on in the Bay, right, within the mission of like gentrification, the battle to really withhold or continue to have our own families live within their own homes, and not be forced out. And as you were saying. And that's something that's very similar within a lot of other barrios, right? Even like, further down, South Bay, right? Where we're seeing a lot of other people, being evicted from their own homes because other people from the Bay that got evicted too. Is like it's a ripple effect, that's, really harming a lot of families. And so I really do appreciate, you bringing that to awareness through your art and through the murals that you're creating and everything that you're doing. And also like, you just got done with your little comic book, you're releasing it, sharing it with others. What are some other projects that you have in mind, and what are some other things that you're planning to do, for our own communities, or even just for, it's the things that you're planning to do in the future?
I mean, this comic book is probably like the biggest project that I've been working on, and it's not quite done. Like in the next couple months, I would like to finish it. And it's very much like about a kid who grows up in the mission, whose family is undocumented, who he experiences all aspects of like gentrification. His older cousins are like gang banging. So, his aunt, he doesn't have parents. He lives with his aunt who like is worried about him, and his mother is like an addict and she's homeless, and his aunt is tripping because he is like having these like crazy dreams where he's kind of having like visions of his mother. And so she kind of sends him to therapy, and she sends him to like a new school, and he meets these other kids that are like from all over the city, which is very much like how I grew up. I mean, I was like raised in the mission, and then all of a sudden in high school, I ended up going over to Soda, like on Portola. And And it was the first time I like met kids that like weren't Latino or from the mission. Like it was the first time I met kids from the Sunset and Excelsior and, Bernal or whatever, And so that's like the biggest project I'm working on. And I kind of want it to be a series, and I want it to speak to the youth as much as possible in the city. And then I'm supposed to do a couple murals coming up. Like Mission Housing is hiring me for a new mural on 25th and Cap to represent kind of the MCO, like what happened back then with Mission Housing, and how we can represent affordable housing in the community. So we're like working on a design for that. And I'm supposed to do a mural for this guy, Charlie, his name is. He runs it's like an artist workshop. It's like a metal workshop and a wood workshop off of Hunters Point, and it's like right on the corner, like Hunters Point and Middle Point. And it's like all these shipping containers, and he's been there for like 20 years or something, and he's been in the city for like over 40 years doing art, and the property owners are like trying to evict him. So he's creating this big mural project to like make people aware of the space. And so I'm supposed to do a mural over there of like, he kind of wants something representing like Latino culture, because he has a lot of different diverse artists. So yeah, those are like a couple projects I'm about to do. I really want to collab with a lot of different. I want to collaborate with like Mel Waters and Marina Perez Wong and a couple other big time painters that are a little bit older than me. And yeah, that's like what I got planned.
Yeah, that's the hustle right there, huh? I'm excited for you. I'm excited to see how the projects unfold, right? And just continue to support you in whatever ways I can. For everybody else that is tuning in, how could they support you as well?
Well, I mean, the show for my comic book is up for all of September. So it's at Evolved SF on 24th and Lucky. They are open Tuesday through Saturday in the afternoon. And anybody can just go show up or call and make a reservation, and then you can kind of like go see the art I've been doing there. And you can also like peep my website. It's CIALU art, like CIALU art. And I have a lot of merch and prints on there. You can also just like, if somebody just wants to hit me up and talk about murals, I'm always open to like, spitting ideas or educating about like the murals I have done. And, you can follow me on Instagram at CIALU art. I really like talking to new people and finding out and brainstorming with other people in my community. So, yeah.
There you go. Much love. So everybody that's tuning in, make sure that y'all support her with her own arte. Hit her up for some commissions, hopefully as well. Support her in the way as possible, right? And so yeah. And for any other last words that you have for the audience, what are some last things you want to share with them? What's some last things you want them to know?
Well, I will say that just like last night was really a wake up call, because, last night was the opening of my show and it was lit. Like there was just so many people out. The crowd was like crazy, a little out of hand, because, we got to like be careful about the coronavirus and everything. But it just was a really big wake up call to that people need community right now. Like, I think people came out to support me, of course, and see the art, but they also just came out because they really need to be around people. I mean, this stuff like with being on lockdown is depressing and it's hard. And I think that, with a lot of the protests that were going on, it was a really like great way for people to like start educating themselves and get together and even make all this like resistance art. We saw all those like businesses getting boarded up with like these beautiful, new, powerful images. So I think that in these times, I will just say that like to use any artistic outlet that you possibly can with your gente, you know what I mean? Like just like reach out. Like you can be safe and socially distant and like get together and do some really important work, you know, like, and everybody has a talent. I don't care if you don't do art, even if you have just like a mouthpiece, you know what I mean? Like that's an art talent too. So, you know, any way that you can find your hustle, like I see a lot of people starting their own crafts right now, and I think that's so dope. Like if we can just keep building up our community, and you know, like you don't have to like donate to Black Lives Matter to make a contribution to what's going on in the world. You can just donate to Black and brown people that are doing work in your community right now. I think as much as supporting each other as we can is important.
Now, thank y'all once again, you know, as if we're tuning into Barrio Voices. I hope that y'all definitely go out there and show Lucia some love, you know, going out to her event, you know, support her with all the projects that she has coming up. But besides all that, again, you know, much love to everybody out there supporting this podcast. You know, if you want to continue supporting and have early access to this episodes, you know, make sure that y'all go on patreon.com/Barrio Voices. You know, I maintain that page full of early access content, you know what I mean? But besides that, you know, I'm going to say muchas gracias. Now, y'all been in tune to Barrio Voices, where we highlight the voices of our barrios, familias, and communities. This is Velas, and to you all, much love to everybody out there. Órale.